All right, welcome everyone to my intro video to the VC here. This is take 2 or 3, depending on how you want to count it. I just recorded and the audio was out of sync, so let's hope this is a lot better. But yeah, this is my intro to the VC. My name's Will. I've been collecting I've been collecting very intently for the last 2-ish years, and I've become aware of the VC at the end of 2024. Gotten really into some of the content that's out here. Thank you, YouTube algorithm. So I figured take a shot at making some videos, and I've got to start with an introduction. So here we go. I thought the best way to introduce myself, aside from giving you my name, is to talk about what I collect and why I collect and how I collect, I guess. So first I'll start with the why. Why do I collect? Well, I'm just like a lifelong collector of things. Baseball cards, Pokemon, Star Wars cards, Magic the Gathering cards, lots of CCGs and TCGs. I've got to assume there's some crossover in the vinyl community with that. I assume a lot of people who are into this stuff have been lifelong collectors of things. So I would love to hear from you if you've played, in particular, Magic the Gathering. Drop a comment below. As an adult, I got into digital art. All this art behind me, I collected since 2021, the bulk of it probably in 2023, 2024. I got very into the digital art scene. I made a podcast about it. I still do from time to time, but for almost 3 years straight, made weekly episodes with a friend of mine. So hence doing this video, I mean, making content for things I'm interested in has always come naturally to me for all of my hobbies and passions. I've been really into indoor bouldering and fermenting and all this stuff. So I'm just someone who always has a hobby, who always has a thing that they're learning about and going crazy about. My camera's up here, by the way, so if I'm not making eye contact with you, sorry, I'm just kind of looking at my notes and making sure this looks good. But why else do I collect? The number one reason that I got into collecting more heavily about 2.5 years ago is that we had a kid. So I'm married, I have a daughter, she's 3.5, and it occurred to me once we moved here and we moved from Brooklyn to Jersey, that having more space now, it would be really fun to build a physical collection of records that she could explore as she grew up and help expose her to different sounds, different music, different eras, different parts of the world. So that was kind of the big motivating factor, but it just crosses over with a lot of the things that I like to do in general. All this art. Like, I love to just collect things from my friends. I'm not an artistic person myself, but I have made friends with a lot of artsy people throughout my life. Friends who are artists and make clothing. I've got some clothes that they've made. Friends who are artists. On my podcast, I've interviewed all these people. I've talked to them. I love to collect from them when they're my friends. I love to support them especially. And that's crossed over into music and a little bit as well. So I wanted to show some stuff here. So this is a record that my friend did the cover art for. This is by electronic musician, experimental musician named Novo. He's out of Berlin, Germany. And my friend designed the artwork here on his computer using, I forget what the name of the software is. Sorry, Ken. And then used a pen plotter to create the cover. So each of the covers has the same design, but is done in different colorways. And if you don't know what a pen plotter is, go look it up. Very cool. And so I was out in Berlin last year visiting him, and I got first pick of the 25 that they did with these unique covers, and then they've got others. Go check them out on Bandcamp. If you are interested, you can hear the music, and you could pick up an expensive, unique one, or you can pick up a cheaper one. I've got a friend from college who has made music to his detriment a little bit in school academically, but then he made some really cool kind of boogie, funky electronic stuff when he moved out to the West Coast under the name Plaza, and I forget what the name of this label is, but yeah, Voltaire Records from 2014. So I got this from him, and then he had another name that he released music as, Panavision, and this is actually 2 records in here. He has a 12-inch. Oh wait, no, maybe it's the other one. Panavision was one he did later, but under Plaza he has the 12-inch EP and a little 7-inch, and all this stuff rips. It's great to put on at parties. Love Johan, love supporting him. Another Novo piece here. This cover, again, this is a 99 edition EP, and each one is plotted with the number that it is. So this is number 16 of 99. Number 99 has number 99 on the cover. So I think that's super cool, like finding ways to make it unique. And then the most unique of the unique here from friend and artist that we interviewed on our podcast. This is a EP, a noise record by MSHR, who if you're into noise, you might know. And then LoVid, who if you're into noise, you might know. LoVid's an artist duo. They do a lot of digital art, analog performance stuff, circuit bending. They've been around in the New York City scene since the early 2000s. And yeah, lots of cool stuff. Go check out their website. But this record, I already took it out from the last time I recorded, is really cool. So the A side, you can see there, it's got the etching. This is number 21. I think they did 25 or 50 of these, or maybe 75. It was definitely under 100. 25 sounds right. They got the etching there. And it says it's a little hard to see in the camera there. It's actually a little hard to see in the light in this room. It sucks. It just says various artists, which is the label that put it out. And it's got the noise track. Every noise track is unique. I think they used a lathe process, which is why it looks so weird. So every track is unique. And then the back has this unique etching design on it. And I don't know if they did that with like a laser device or just with the lathe itself, probably a laser. So that artwork is designed by LoVid. And then also the little cover is unique, artwork by LoVid. So for 50 of these, they ended up printing 50 of these inserts that also function as the cover, and that art is unique. So I think that's just like a really cool way of bringing a generative process into the creation here. Check out the inside there. Pretty dope. So love supporting my friends. I also like to challenge myself, I guess, throughout my life. Like I've always listened to music. I've expanded my taste a lot from being a kid, which hopefully if you're watching this, you probably have a similar story. We all probably cringe at the things we listened to back in high school and middle school. And whenever there was an artist or an album or something that kind of struck me as like, this is good. I don't like it, but I know it's good. So now I kind of need to figure out like what the good is in it. And so I pulled a few records here to show of artists that maybe challenged me or I didn't get right away, but were just so critically praised, or people kept telling me that I should check them out. One of them here, experimental hip hop, rap. The guy who's kind of my favorite in the scene right now, JPEGMAFIA. This is Veteran. I think this is the cover art from when he was touring. So this is like a first press, but it's different from the other first press art, which is him, I think, in front of his house or a house somewhere in Baltimore. It's also signed, so whoever bought this got it signed from him on tour. Picked this up on Discogs. Don't know how to validate the signature, but I choose to believe. Love this record. It took me a long time to get into it. And honestly, I don't think it was until he released his second record that I really enjoyed right off the bat that I decided to go back and listen to this one. And I enjoyed it a lot more after having tried it for years occasionally. Another one I tried for years and years, and it took me a minute, The Glow Part 2 by the Microphones. Maybe cringe to show this. I don't know. It's like an indie record. I think probably anyone who's into indie knows this. It's not unique. This is a first press of it that I also picked up on Discogs at some point. I actually want to get the later repress of it as well, because I know just from looking at reviews, people say that one plays better. I don't think this one plays poorly, but yeah. A lot of people in my college were into this record, and I would listen to it, and I would like some of it, and then I wouldn't kind of like the rest of it. And in my later 20s, I'm 40 now. I guess that's maybe young for the VC. I don't know. In my later 20s, after trying it over and over again, I finally clicked. Love this record. I've collected a lot of Microphones. And then Modest Mouse, also indie. And this is the last stuff I'll show for this before I kind of finish up the video. I've always really liked building nothing out of something. Well, I should say I got into Modest Mouse, of course, because of Float On and the record they released when I was in high school and the radio hit. And a lot of people who kind of knew more about music and were more into the indie stuff told me if that record sucks or it's not so good and you should check out their older stuff. And this is the one that, for whatever reason, ended up on my hard drive back in the days of like swapping CDs or downloading stuff from Napster, however it got there. And I really liked this, and I still really love this one. It's probably still my favorite Modest Mouse record, even though it's a collection of their EPs. This is an original on the Up label from 2000. So not an original of the EPs, obviously, but the first time they're compiled together. But I love this whole record front to back. I kind of always have. It was the other stuff that took me a long time to get into. And if I had to put a number 2, I am a Lonesome Crowded West stan over Moon and Antarctica. So I have both, but this is another one, original up. Pressing, I found this one at Generation Records in Manhattan earlier this year or at the end of last year. I can't remember. A weird oddity that instead of doing a gatefold, they released it as like 2 records. I don't know if they were, put together in some way back then, how it was originally packaged, but this is how I've always seen it. And even the repress, which my friend has, is done like that. So yeah, I'm not afraid to challenge myself and explore stuff. And so yeah, that's kind of the showing stuff. So now I just want to talk really quick about my collecting philosophy. As you saw here, a lot of the stuff is original presses. As I got into collecting again, I began by doing the research phase of a hobby, which is just the type of person I am. Before I got into playing online poker, I read like 6 books on playing online poker, then deposited money. So that way I just didn't feel like out of my depth. And that tends to be how I approach hobbies. Like I start by consuming content, then get into it. I'm not going to self-diagnose myself here with any kind of neurodivergence, but I'm sure there's something there, to say the least. And yeah, so I started by logging my whole collection on Discogs, catching it up. I logged my friend's entire collection onto his Discogs. He had never really done it. Discovered a lot of things about just the nuances of how to pick out quickly a pressing, and also was simultaneously building my want list and seeing the price discrepancy. See, this is the second time I'm recording this, so I'm losing my voice. Seeing the price discrepancy between like an original pressing of something and a newer one. Apologies. So I kind of oriented around collecting originals, especially because it didn't seem like it was going to be that much more expensive at the time. And I knew that for things like Modest Mouse or Pavement and records that really meant a lot to me, I wouldn't mind spending up to get originals. Anyways, I'm talking more about other things that kind of fill out the collection. So there's that side of it, and there's also just the collector's psychographic, like the idea of owning original stuff that has history, stuff that has, for lack of a better term, aura to it, really appeals to me. And then there's something that I guess I don't want to go too deep into, because I think it's a whole can of worms that people don't talk about that much. People seem to talk a lot about how much they spend on records. I don't see people really speculating or talking about the total value of their collection or what they anticipate their collection being. I think the du jour thing to do is just to say you don't collect records because they're going to have value or go up in value or even retain value. And I think that's a fair enough position and a very healthy position to take. I don't view it as an investment, but I do like to think and hope that by approaching my collecting this way, it will at least help maintain or hedge against the downside of like if and when I'm put into a position where I need to sell this record collection because of a life situation change or an inheritor of mine, as I often see when people go to buy collections, end up deciding to sell it because it's such a burden. And stupid dad bought all these records. Well, at least they're originals, which hopefully means that there'll be a more appealing package to buy, or that it will be easier to piece out the better pieces from the collection and get something closer to like 80 cents on the dollar instead of 10 cents on the dollar, like you might if you bulked an entire collection full of mostly garbage to a store, if you're lucky. So just to really kind of wrap it up here, what do I collect? I collect a lot of indie, as you saw, some hip hop, a lot of electronic music. I love ambient stuff. Collected a ton of like Eno and Harold Budd and beyond. Every now and then some classic stuff, some Carole King, like stuff that's just really inoffensive and fun to put on. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young being another one. So we're always looking for that kind of stuff, especially when I'm with my wife and we're in a position where we can actually both look. And more recently, I've gotten into like modern jazz and experimental stuff, really into Sam Gendel. Right now, I have gotten into classic jazz, even though I told my friend I will never become a jazz guy. I've definitely gotten into classic jazz. Not everything. There's still a lot that doesn't appeal to me. But I have been collecting some Blue Note and Impulse stuff, and a lot of spiritual jazz and krautrock and world stuff that I've become exposed to thanks to the VC, specifically Dom, Seeking a Thread, has posted some very influential videos on my personal collecting that I'm sure I will have opportunity to talk about in the future. And being in the New York City area, I have a lot of opportunity to go shopping at stores and support local stuff. WFMU is here. It was just a couple weeks ago. Tons of great stores in Manhattan, tons of even more great stores in Brooklyn. I have a couple places that I go to in Jersey as well. There's the record riots that they hold in Jersey City when the weather's okay. So lots of opportunities to support physically like that. I do, of course, bite the bullet very often on Discogs too for stuff that I just am having no luck finding, or sometimes you just see that like that one seller has 5 things you want and you can't resist the save on shipping and bundle it up, and maybe they're even open to working out, a deal, which is not that uncommon even on Discogs. I collected, I'm going to round it up because I know I've got some stuff coming in the mail and it's only November, but let's say I've collected like 300 records in 2025. And so that's about doubling the size of my collection this year. Maybe a little less because I did collect quite a lot in 2024, but I haven't gone back and audited it the way that I did for 2025 and kind of preparing and thinking about starting to make content around this. So lots to talk about. I want to kind of wrap it here because it's already getting long and rambly. So some future video ideas, like I definitely want to talk about what I've collected in 2025, new releases from 2025 that I really have enjoyed and love, older releases that I've collected and have become really prized possessions, like that Modest Mouse. And I want to do a record on turning point records, like things that got me into new genres or made me aware of new genres, like things like that JPEGMAFIA record that got me more into experimental hip hop, or I won't spoil some of the other stuff, clickbait stuff, most valuable records in my collection. I do a lot of stuff on Discogs, like buying and selling, but also editing, like updating entries on pieces. I have a lot of opinions on Discogs, so it might be cool to try to make some video content there because I don't actually see that much of it. Like if you try to search on YouTube how to make a new entry on Discogs, I think the most recent video is like from 4 or 6 years ago, and the site has changed. So maybe some opportunity there. But yeah, that's it. If any of that sounds interesting to you, if you made it this far, thank you. This is my intro. Sorry for the little burp there. I'm sure the mic caught that. And let me know in the comments, do you play Magic? What would be interesting for you to see? Just any kind of like, hey, what's up would be cool to know. And thank you again for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and see you all later.